colon cancer awareness. With the recent death of American actor Chadwick Boseman, experts in Ghana are hoping for more colorectal cancer screenings to prevent and treat the disease.
Better job matches for students. According to Nigeria's Industrial Training Fund, reforms are coming to the Students' Industrial Work Experience Scheme. Hello and thanks for tuning into the show that goes around the continent to bring you stories near and far. I'm Chamberlain Uso at Channels Television here in Lagos. I'm joined by my colleague, Vincent McCurry.
Well, thanks. I'm Vincent McCurry. Happy to be with you again for another edition of Africa 54. Now, due to the global outbreak of COVID-19, the Voice of America has reduced staffing at VOA headquarters in Washington. So as you see, our broadcast looks a little different for now. We appreciate you staying with us on Africa 54. Let's start off with the latest from Nigeria. Chamberlain Uso in Lagos brings you that story.
The federal government has vowed to reform the Students' Industrial Work Experience Scheme, SIWES, in a bid to tackle job mismatches in Nigeria. And that's according to the Director General of the Industrial Training Fund, Mr. Joseph Ari, who spoke at a meeting in Abuja.
A joint report by the United Nations Industrial Development Organization and the Industrial Training Fund reveals that despite the increasing rate of unemployment in the country, over 925 trades were either difficult to be occupied or not occupied at all. This meeting is bringing together trade experts, economists and government officials as they seek to address the challenge of skills mismatches in the nation's labor force.
The place of SIWES not only provide us perfect opportunity and platform to brainstorm on the implementation of the scheme in the light of COVID-19 pandemic, but also provide recommendations on how SIWES can be applied to address the mismatch between supply and demand of labor.
What you find in this country, there is sometimes an apparent reluctance for our graduates to operate outside their taught areas.
Surveys on labor market skills demand and employer assessment of the performance of graduate employees across private and public organizations in Nigeria points to the prevalence of a mismatch between the job skills acquired by employees from academic institutions and the actual skill set needed to execute tasks in the labor market. But government officials promise to tackle the challenge headlong.
The educational system is not producing graduates in disciplines required in the economy, or are graduating people without employable skills. Either way, my summation is that SIWES has a vital role in bridging this gap.
A number of resolutions were reached at this meeting, including the need for the federal and state governments to review, standardize and expand the curricula of all skill acquisition centers in the country, as well as the need for individuals to acquire employable skills. This, according to experts, will address the job mismatches in the country.
All right, let's get more now on this story from the Director General of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Mr. Muda Yusuf. Thank you for joining us today on Africa 54.
Thank you very much.
Now, tell us, what do you feel about what is responsible for the high level of job mismatches in the country?
Thank you very much. First, let us discuss the concept of job mismatches, because it's not in all cases that you have job mismatches being a major disadvantage. First perspective, the educational or skills job mismatch. When somebody has an educational qualification and is performing a job that is not aligned with his academic background. Sometimes it works well, sometimes it doesn't. Because I've seen, even in your own constituency, people who don't have any background in mass communication or broadcasting, who are doing very well as journalists or as broadcasters and so on and so forth. We have seen similar things in things like fashion design, in the Nollywood industry. People who don't even have any background in theater arts or performing arts, who are doing very well as actors and actresses. So that is an issue. Then there is also the issue of talent mismatch. When people find themselves in jobs that their talents are not aligned with, that is another case of having a job mismatch. Then there is passion mismatch. You have people in workplaces, they have a passion for something, they are doing something completely different from their passion. So this, from a conceptual point of view, these are the three critical areas when we talk about job mismatches. And some of this happen because first, we have serious issues with unemployment. So when people are desperate for jobs, irrespective of your academic background, whatever comes your way, the tendency is to grab it. Another factor is parental influence or the influence of guardians. Sometimes parents dictate to their children the kind of academic pursuits that they should undertake. Perhaps the parent is a medical doctor, a lawyer, and he, compels the child to go and read law or medicine. So after graduation, the child finds that he's not cut out for that, for the job of either being a lawyer or being a medical doctor. We have seen several cases of that where people veer away from their basic academic disciplines into what they feel they like to do and what they have a passion for. Then there's also the challenge of the academic curriculum, that's the educational curriculum. The curriculum most times are very static.
All right, the examples you've given notwithstanding, but in terms of the impacts that it can have on employee performance or organizations' productivity, are we overestimating or underestimating any of those?
No, we are not underestimating. And that is why you have seen in many organizations, there is a scheme for retraining people. Because this shortcoming has been recognized by employers across practically all sectors. We have some sectors where companies even set up training schools. So irrespective of your discipline, they admit you as a graduate because they believe that as a graduate, you already have some fundamental intellectual development. You already have some, personality development. You already have some communication skills. You have some level of confidence as a person. So they take you in, irrespective of your disciplines, and they develop your capacity to suit the need of that organization.
Well, that's where we'll leave it. Mr. Muda Yusuf, Director General, Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Thank you for talking to us today on Africa 54.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
Welcome back to Africa 54. I'm Vincent McCory in Washington. In recent months, unpredictable intense floods have washed across parts of Kenya, Sudan, Ethiopia, and several other East and Central African countries, ruining homes and livelihoods. At the same time, people and governments are battling a global pandemic. VOA's Anita Powell spoke to those affected in one East African nation.
Paradise in peril. As the world battles a pandemic, large swaths of the African continent have been submerged by floods. This is the scene in the eastern Ugandan city of Jinja, along the shores of Lake Victoria. Since March, flooding has left more than 400 people dead in East Africa. In Uganda, Catholic Relief Services estimates that as many as 580,000 people are affected, from nice lakeshore homes in Kampala to small farms along the Kenya border.
And you're a smallholder farmer who normally benefits from farming on a riverbank, and suddenly there's this raging flash flood that comes down the hills and mountains because of this very intense rainfall. You lose everything.
In the town of Jinja, radio host and environmental activist John Hillary says flooding doesn't just destroy homes, it ruins the very fabric that holds society together.
The public hospital, the only public hospital in the Chilembe region, completely destroyed. So people, as a result of the floods, got sick, but they could not get anywhere else to go to because the hospital had been destroyed.
Dehoy says heavy rainfall is normal in East Africa. What isn't is the frequency and intensity seen lately. He says Uganda is facing a triple threat that's making it even harder for groups to help.
We have the locusts, we have all the floods, and then on top of everything else, we have COVID-19. And so it's been, for the affected people, it's been an especially hard year, to be on a lockdown and be affected by floods, and then because of the lockdown, accessing the support and the relief that they are entitled to.
Hillary, who has a radio show, speaks often about climate change. He grew up on a farm, so for him, this is personal.
Over time, we have noticed that because of what I think is negligence, we've been involved in practices that have completely destroyed our rain cycle. Our climate is deteriorating every other day.
This, he says, is a living nightmare. This is his home, and he wants future generations to see its beauty, too. Anita Powell, VOA News, Johannesburg.
The United Nations World Food Programme says that unless humanitarian access is urgently granted to aid agencies, catastrophic levels of hunger could hit hard in parts of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger.
In a little more than a year, an insurgency has displaced more than 1 million people in Burkina Faso. Violence and insecurity has pushed 7.4 million people in the central Sahel region of West Africa into acute hunger. The number of internally displaced people have risen from 70,000 2 years ago to nearly 1.6 million today, including an over 288,000 in Mali, more than 265,000 in Niger, and over 1 million in Burkina Faso, which is now home to the world's fastest growing displacement crisis.
We believe there are about 11,000 people now in phase 5 famine condition, and we don't have access to it. If we can get to them, we can not only save their lives, but we can also change their lives. If we can just get them here, then we can work with them to grow crops, and then they won't have to be dependent on outside help.
The ability of humanitarian organizations to deliver assistance to those most in need have been jeopardized by worsening conflict and insecurity. Meanwhile, aid workers are also increasingly targeted by non-state armed groups in Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. This means that needy communities are unable to access life-saving humanitarian assistance on which they so desperately depend on in times like this.
Just a year ago, there were 200,000 people displaced because of terrorist and extremist groups. Now it's over 1 million. These were people in an area that were already struggling in so many ways because of flash floods and droughts, and you can look at the land, it's a tough piece of land. And so we're working with these internally displaced people to rehabilitate the landscape so that they can not be a burden on the local community, the host, and at the same time produce more food and take care of their families and sell in the marketplace.
WFP, the 2020 Nobel Peace Prize laureate, is urging participants at a high-level ministerial conference in the Central Sahel to find ways for organizations to engage with the communities and all sectors on the ground, opening up safe passage ways for humanitarian assistance to reach those in need.
It's time now for a short break. We would like to remind you to visit our website, channelstv.com, for news and programming around the clock. You can also find us at youtube.com/channelsweb. Still to come, one woman's mission to save an art form with the help of Aphrodite Wasim, the Egyptian craft of glass blowing, to find a revival.
Welcome back to Africa 54. I'm Vincent McCory in Washington. Cancer experts in Ghana lament that little attention is paid to screening for colorectal cancers, leading to a high death rate despite the disease's relatively low occurrence. The death from colon cancer of American actor Chadwick Boseman, who played the lead role in the Hollywood film Black Panther, might bring fresh awareness of the disease. Stacey Knott reports from Accra.
By the time a patient comes to Dr. Clement Adusa with colon cancer, it's often too late. The cancer has been misdiagnosed and spread as the patient has sought out other treatments, including some from ill-equipped small clinics or herbalists. Dr. Adusa says while colon cancer is not common in Ghana, he expects to see an increase as lifestyles change.
Definitely there's going to be an increase, but don't forget that apart from that, you need to have a structure in place to do the screening. So if you don't have a national program which sort of pulls in the people to do the screening, you'll not get it early. So you'd have increase in numbers and people coming late, and then of course having more fatalities.
This year, a beloved actor and preacher in Ghana met this fate. Bernard Nyako's son Gideon says by the time his dad got his colon cancer diagnosis, doctors could do little because it had spread.
He went to the hospital, but they were not able to diagnose the main source of illness. They were linking it to other different source of illness and stuff. But it was later that we discovered that it was colon cancer. That was 2019.
He hopes both his father's case and that of actor Chadwick Boseman will create needed awareness. Some organisations in Ghana have taken up the mantle. Cancer Support Network Ghana tries to get survivors to urge others to go for early screenings.
People think that when you have this cancer, you are going to die. But there are people who have lived for many years. So when they come out to share their stories, it encourages others to also seek treatment.
Another organisation focuses on low-income communities, advocating prevention, providing screening of cancers, education and promoting healthy lifestyles.
The lifestyles that expose people to cancer kind of run through regardless of which cancer you are referring to. So we may not be heavily focused on colon cancer now, but then we believe that the awareness we are creating is giving people the opportunity to adopt lifestyle that saves them from risk.
By making people more aware of the signs and risks of cancer, the hope is that all cancer screenings, diagnosis and treatments, including for colon cancer, will be funded by the government. Stacey Knott for VOA News, Accra.
An Egyptian woman, Aphrodite Wassim, is working round the clock to revive the dying crafts of glass blowing in her country. Take a look.
Juggling between the hot ovens at her workshop in Kaliobea village and a posh store in upscale Cairo neighborhood, Aphrodite Wassim is vowing to preserve the dying craft of glass blowing. To create the colorful glass orbs, Wassim stands for hours in front of ovens operating at 2,000 degrees Celsius. But the artist doesn't mind the heat, saying her love for the craft motivates her to push on.
Personally, I feel so happy standing in front of the oven when I have a solid material, and in one moment it becomes soft in my hands and I shape it the way I want, and I make some very colorful pieces that impress anyone.
The 32-year-old studied applied arts with a focus on glasswork at university, but after graduation, she struggled to find a mentor in the male-dominated market.
I was told that women are not allowed inside the factory. You give us the design and we make it for you.
Undeterred, she decided to travel to Italy and get hands-on experience with glass blowers there. Her hard work paid off, and she now runs her own workshop, where she works alongside a few craftsmen to create elaborate pieces of glass.
I meet a lot of clients who can't believe that I do this work on my own. They think that I send the designs to factories.
Wasim says she is the only woman among the few glassblowers that remain in the country where the traditional technique is replaced with modern technology and mass production. Many manufacturers find glassblowing time-consuming and costly, resorting instead to ready-made molds for their designs. But Wasim hopes she can play a role in protecting this craft.
A disabled 9-year-old boy in Malawi has shown his community that being born with physical challenges does not prevent you from doing many things. Talandira Kagoya was born with only one limb, but taught himself how to write, play football and ride a bicycle. A documentary about his moving life has been nominated for Australia's 2020 Focus on Ability Short Film Festival. Lamik Messina reports from Palombe district in southern Malawi.
Raising 9-year-old Talandira, who was born with only one complete limb, was not easy for the Kagoya family.
Some women were laughing at me when they saw us riding on the bicycle to school. They would say that they wouldn't bother to take such a child to school every day. I would just ignore them and say to myself, this is a God-given child.
But this southern Malawi's community's judgment against Talandira changed when he proved that being disabled does not mean being helpless. His self-taught skills were featured in a local documentary called Chosen, which was nominated for Australia's October Focus on Ability Short Film Festival. Malawi's authorities say Talandira's story sets a great example for other disabled people and how they should be supported.
We are very proud of Talandira being engaged in a competition. This will assist other parents to come out and expose their children to various social activities, that they can be assisted a lot and they can achieve what they are expecting in the future.
Talandira's mother is confident that the documentary about her son will do well at the festival.
The dedication and wisdom that he has are what makes me believe that my son's documentary will win the award.
As for this grade 3 student, his dreams don't stop in Australia. Talandira says he plans to fly airplanes.
I want to be a pilot because they fly people to various destinations across the world. I also want to see those places.
In the meantime, Talandira is happy piloting his bicycle around the neighborhood. Lamek Messina for VOA News, Palombe, Malawi.
And that's our show for today. You can find all the continent's top news and world news online at voaafrica.com. Check it out. I'm Vincent McCory in Washington. Channels Television has our last word from Lagos.
We look forward to bringing you another show next week. Remember, channelstv.com is your source for news and programming around the clock. I'm Chamberlain Uso. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.